Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me. I'm back, and this is What If Deku had a Pokemon Quirk Part 2. As always, if you enjoyed, please leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. It helps in the long run. And it seems like y'all enjoyed Part 1. I've gotten a lot of good feedback in the comments. Seems like y'all enjoyed it. And yeah, I mean, we're here for Part 2, so I hope y'all enjoy this part as well. And let's get into where we left off. Let's get it. The arrival of Deku at UA. Izuku Midoriya is excited to take on whatever's challenge and whatever's to come very, very soon. When he walks through those doors, those gates, and then eventually the door of Class 1A, he sees many people. Let's just say a lot of them look at Deku and think, well, what's so special about him? He looks normal, like he doesn't have anything. He's not some weird drastic color. He's not seemingly extremely big or strong. He doesn't have edge to him. He just seems like a cinnamon roll, like a cute little cuddly bear, but if that bear was small. And of course, this isn't talked about at all, but Izuku sits down and awaits the arrival of their teacher Shota Aizawa. Eventually, he would arrive, and Aizawa would immediately throw them into the deep end, telling them all that they're going to do somewhat of a quirk assessment, because that's the best way to figure out what the heck they're even capable of doing. And that's exactly what they do. The quirk assessment would then begin after everybody would leave the classroom. The quirk assessment would involve many things, but of course, Aizawa would tell them that the #1 student in the entrance exam will step up first, and that would be Izuku Midoriya. Everybody is pretty shocked by this. I mean, he looks so ordinary. Well, he did until he transforms into a Pokemon. Yeah, a Lucario. And most of the people that kind of knew he existed, now remember who he is, and we're kind of clouded by the idea of him just being kind of normal. But at the same time, he is not normal. He is shredded, and you can't obviously see that because it's not like he's not wearing a shirt or anything like that, but he is shredded. And this guy is pretty strong even without his Lucario form. But once he's in his Lucario form, Aizawa tosses him a ball, and he would grab the ball and he would launch it. He wouldn't really even try to do anything else. He would use a Pokemon move, but it's kind of becoming second nature. These aren't final boss moves he uses now. These are moves that he knows he can inherently use all the time, especially from all the training that he's put in with All Might. He doesn't show off his, Mega Evolution because he's still tampering and working with it, and he doesn't want to, do anything too stupid and hurt someone or destroy landscape, so he just throws the ball. After he throws the ball, it goes pretty far, and pretty far is probably a bit of an understatement. He chucks that thing extremely far. Not infinity by any means, but 10,000 feet through the sky would be probably kind of where he throws it, or more or less a long distance, extremely long distance. And everybody's pretty impressed, and they begin saying that this is pretty fun, that they're kind of excited. I mean, seriously, like, they love doing stuff like this, in which Aizawa would hear this and he would immediately tell them that this is no longer going to be fun and games. It was never in the first place. So they're going to take this seriously, and he's going to make them do that. And the way he does that is pretty simple. He tells them all that if they get last place, they'll be expelled, gone from UA, just like that. Snap of your fingers and you're now in the void of uselessness. So everyone takes it very seriously. But some of the top students would obviously just destroy through this, and that would include Izuku Midoriya. But that would also include Katsuki Bakugo, his bully. And they would destroy through this, and Bakugo would actually end up being kind of around the 4th or even 5th position and not be at the very top where he believed he should be. Izuku Midoriya, though, is at the very top. The one and only Deku proves that he is the best in their class, and it's not very close. After it is all said and done, Bakugo would make a threat saying that he'll make sure to prove that he is so much better than Izuku very, very soon. He doesn't care how leveled up he is, he doesn't care how strong he's gotten. He's going to make sure that he destroys him. Aizawa would tell them to quiet down as he reveals all the scores and would reveal that he's actually not going to expel anybody, that he was just more or less fucking with them. And he would send them all off to basically to figure out the rest of the day, and eventually the day would eventually come to an end. The day would come to an end and they would all head home, and after the little brief visit at home, a nice sleep, and the arrival back at UA, Izuku would be looking forward to whatever's to come, and he would get a little bit of insight at what is to come from All Might himself. At the end of the day, him and All Might are on pretty close terms. Of course, All Might has no problem telling him that he's actually going to be running the training session. And that training session would be heroes versus villains. All Might would come blazing through the door, busting through saying, "I am here," and he walked through the door like a normal person. But of course, All Might is far from normal, and he begins to explain exactly what they're going to do. He tells them all to get on their hero outfits, but of course Izuku doesn't necessarily have one, in which that is something him and All Might talk about briefly, but Izuku says that he doesn't find a point to him having an actual hero outfit. It just, in terms of if it's not going to help him in his Lucario form, or potentially and eventually his new or another Pokemon form, then there's no point at all. And maybe one day he can have a suit of armor or something, some advanced technology that he can put over him, but right now it doesn't feel that way. In which that would be relevant, because All Might would feel that that is kind of true. No reason to waste resources on someone that doesn't necessarily need the resources. And that's just the fact of the matter. With all that said and done though, All Might sets up the teams for heroes versus villains, and the first team out for villain side of things is actually Bakugo and Tenya Ida. The heroes on the other hand are Izuku Midoriya and Ochako Uraraka, in which is kind of exciting. Bakugo gets his chance to go heads up with Izuku, but Izuku gets his chance to kind of show why he's far beyond what Bakugo is saying, and far beyond Bakugo in general. So when that would begin and the 5 minutes of planning would start, Izuku would explain that there's a couple things that they could do. For starters, he knows Bakugo will come after him. He's done it all his life and he'll continue to do it for the rest of his life. And he'll come after him and he wants to make a statement thinking that he's better than him. He tells Ochako that she should just work her way up to Tenya Ida, that he will handle Bakugo. She asks if he'll be okay handling him on his own, and Izuku smiles and says he guarantees he'll be just fine. Then the time limit would end and All Might would tell them all to begin, and as Izuku transforms, he walks through with Ochako going a different direction, and here comes the one and only Katsuki Bakugo coming blasting down, and he begins to blast through and he shoots an explosion at Izuku's face. Quickly though, Izuku would immediately cross his arms and get smacked with the blow, an extremely lethal one, and he would keep his arms up. Bakugo telling him that he's not going to stop the attack as he hits Izuku over and over and over again. And eventually he would hit Izuku so much that the next hit, Izuku would parry it and his fist would glow as if it was basically shining with 1,000,000 suns. And Izuku would say that Bakugo was really messed up because he's only hurting himself, as Izuku counters with double the strength that Bakugo put in all of those attacks combined, hitting Bakugo in the stomach and completely knocking him out entirely. Izuku would tell him while he's laying on the ground completely out cold that the difference in power is a very large one. He would walk upstairs to find Ochako kind of struggling with Tenya Ida, but with a quick burst of speed and a quick side kick right to the gut of Tenya Ida, they would touch the bomb and this entire event would be over. The heroes would be the victors, and All Might would say just that. The heroes have won, at least in this regard, and it's now time for them to take their rest and watch their classmates do their best as well. Izuku would do just that, watching all of his classmates finish up their heroes versus villains, but Bakugo would be completely silent. But Tenya Ito would be quite the opposite. Tenya would kind of talk to Izuku about how he was able to do the things he was able to do, and how he was able to do it in general, and that he was pretty impressed in general, pretty impressed with his capabilities and what he's able to do, and he thought it was really cool. I mean, the whole Pokemon thing and all. He's heard about Pokemon. He's not really like, a big video game type of guy or anything like that. In which Izuku says that doesn't really surprise him, but that's a-okay. He doesn't have to understand exactly what Izuku is to more or less enjoy and also work together at the end of the day. Whatever information he needs, he'll tell him, and he doesn't have to worry about all that. In which, of course, this would be pretty good conversation between the two of them, and after some more battles between heroes and villains, the day would then be over. The next day would be an eventful one, and that might be an understatement, because rescue training is an important part of the hero's journey, and when Aizawa tells them that, well, there's going to be rescue training at what we know as the USJ, it's kind of exciting for all of the people there and all of the students that are there. They're excited for this whole USJ trip, and when Aizawa explains that they need to be on their best behavior and to basically shut up and go to the bus after a bit of a conversation, they all leave, go to the bus, and they more or less sit there and talk about their quirks. While talking about their quirks, it's kind of just a conversation of, oh, whose quirk is better? But the main conversation is between Izuku and Todoroki. But at the end of the day, most people think that it's Izuku. Yes, it is a transformation, and there's probably downsides to it, like who wants to look like a furry monster? But even some of the people there say that furry monster is pretty cute and also really awesome. So would you really not want to be able to transform into more or less a monster that is pretty awesome, that can kick ass, and, well, is just dope in general? Like, come on, how is that a downside? In which they do talk about it for a little bit, but Izuku kind of just lets them talk as he just hangs out normally. When they would arrive back at the USJ, they're greeted by Pro Hero 13, in which Pro Hero 13 speaks to all of them, telling them all exactly what's going to happen, what's going down, and how they're going to learn from this experience. But what she doesn't know is that it's going to be a little different than just learning from this experience. This experience will be traumatic for a lot of the people there and a lot of the students that are there, because, well, an attack on the USJ would eventually occur. When they're all standing there, they're all listening to Pro Hero 13, eventually a portal would open up at the center of the USJ. This portal would shock them to the core. They would be terrified of what's going on, and villains would pour out of it. Izuku would look over there as he looks toward Aizawa, and Aizawa tells all of them to stay still, don't move an inch, and that Pro Hero 13 will protect them. Izuku watches as Aizawa dives in to more or less go fight, and all he can think about is giving him a helping hand. He needs to help Aizawa. There's no way he's gonna just let him fight on his own. It doesn't make sense, right? Izuku would look over there toward Aizawa, about to make a break for it, but quickly he would realize that the portal villain is right in front of him, and actually separating his class entirely, dunking him into the water. When he's in the water though, he would transform immediately, going into his Lucario form, questioning himself, thinking that he really wishes that he had some sort of water type that he could swim around in. But he brushes this off as he jumps out of the water toward a boat nearby. Asui would then greet him and say that she was actually going to jump in and get him, but, well, it looks like she doesn't have to do that. Izuku would bring up the fact that they need to figure something out. They need to somehow get out of here, and yeah, that's a bit of an understatement, you could say, but at the end of the day, they need to figure out something, a plan of some sorts, in which she asks if he has enough strength to jump them from here to there in one foul leap, in which he says maybe, but I mean, that's also putting people in possible jeopardy if he can't make that jump. If he can't make that jump, they may fall in and get hurt by some of the people that are kind of below them and all of these, you know, water creature like villains. And of course, this would be brought up, and also we would agree with this. I mean, that is true. If they're not careful, it probably won't go well. But at the same time, do they have that much of a choice? In which he begins to think, and it's something he hasn't tried really himself at all, but maybe it will work. Maybe, just maybe. He tells them that, well, you see, Pokemon have a lot of weaknesses. It has a lot of pluses, minuses, special moves, and he continues to talk about this, and immediately Moneta, who is obviously creepy as heck, would ask if he can turn into a Vaporeon, and he would look at Moneta and shake his head, saying that his brain is ridiculously fried. But with that said, he turns to Asui one last time and says that he probably can punch the water, and she's confused. Punch the water? Yeah, punch the water with a thunder punch. In which she questions if he can even do that, and he just shrugs. He says he doesn't even know if he can, but I mean, do they really have a better choice at this moment? I mean, other than the fact of him hoping and praying that he could jump far? In which she kind of shrugs at this and says that is fair, and Izuku says that he might be electrocuted after this, but hopefully his durability can hold up, and he assumes it can. In which she asks if maybe he should crank up the heat a little bit then, in terms of the power that he outputs. In which he nods and actually realizes that she probably did hear about this whole kind of idea of Izuku transforming even further than what he did before, and many of the people probably know about his mega evolution now. So Izuku does just that, cranking up the heat even further, making him even stronger, turning into Mega Lucario. He jumps in, and his hand begins to kind of electrify as he punches through the water. As he punches the water, though, the shockwave itself launches him back up, so luckily enough, he's not going to, die to electricity or the quick volt that he had going on. But after that was all said and done, and basically after that whole thing was done, and after he completely and utterly destroyed and probably killed some of those fish people, everybody was able to kind of leave because the electricity didn't linger. It wasn't an active current, it was just him putting a shock on it, so it stunned / incapacitated, I guess you could say, all the villains within the water. They get across, and when they arrive, they see that Aizawa has handled the mass majority of the villains, if not all of them. But that doesn't include the main villains. The main villains like Shigaraki, Kurogiri, and a giant monster, a Nomu. Izuku says that he's going to get them out of there, but Asui wonders what he's going to do. And when she says that he's going to help Aizawa, that he just feels that he needs to. He grabs both of them and he races them off quickly as he puts them down. He runs back over toward the area, and Aizawa tells him to get out of here, but he says that he'll help him and not to worry. Izuku gets in a fighting stance, ready to fight, even in Mega Lucario form, and he asks if he can really do this, if he really can, stand up to some of these villains. And Izuku says he can't, to trust him. And Aizawa shrugs and says that if he dies, it's a lot of paperwork, so don't die. Izuku smirks and says he won't, as Shigaraki, Kurogiri begin to try and attack. They both try to attack using portals and stuff like that, trying to even section them off entirely, or trying to section off, Izuku from Aizawa, trying to more or less make a easy pathway to defeating both of them, but it's not that simple. And Izuku is basically able to more or less make some space, make area between him, Aizawa, and basically the villains, and it worked out pretty well. And Izuku would fend off both Kurogiri and Shigaraki, and he would be thinking that he needs to somehow capture them. He's not sure how, but if he can, that would be extremely beneficial. But as he gains the upper hand, and as he lands a crucial blow to Shigaraki, one that would hurt him extremely bad, and one that would make him question what type of power this kid has, let's just say the other Kurogiri looks to get him out of there ASAP. He feels that there is just no reason for him to still be here, especially if this kid is as strong as he is. Shigaraki would refuse, telling the Nomu to kill that kid. The Nomu would charge forward, and Izuku would land a weak punch straight to the Nomu's chest. But as he lands the punch, it seems like an aura would spark around Izuku, and it would immediately just enhance him. He would dodge a couple more punches and land the same punch once again, but this punch was slightly stronger. And the more he punches the Nomu, the stronger he continues to get, until, well, the very last punch, when his aura seems to be off the charts. His aura seems to be going absolutely crazy. Izuku has powered up 6 stages in his attack and is now absolutely swarming the Nomu. Swarming the Nomu as quick as possible with punches that even the shock absorption can't keep up with. And with even that said, the shock absorption is keeping him in the fight, at least to a certain extent. Izuku, though, would back up as he would tell Aizawa to keep Shigaraki and Kurogiri at bay and make sure that they can't intervene in the fight and lose him the upper hand. Aizawa nods and says as long as you keep the big freak off of him, he should be right. He'll be just fine. Izuku agrees, as immediately he begins to slam his wrists together, seemingly making this weird metal sound as it spreads toward the Nomu, and the Nomu begins to scream as his tissue begins to soften. Again, the sound begins to more or less rear off over and over again, and eventually his tissue and his skin seems to be just not as absorbent, if not absorbent, or even weaker in general right now. Izuku lands a couple more punches, and the Nomu is the shell of himself, obliterating the Nomu and even sending it flying out of the USJ. All Might would eventually arrive, but All Might's job was already done for him by Izuku Midoriya. And frankly, at the end of the day, Izuku stares towards Shigaraki as Kurogiri tries to get Shigaraki away. Shigaraki would try to get away, but Izuku would look for a punch, and as he flies through the air for that punch using extreme speed, and he's going extremely fast, like so fast that, well, not many people can even see. He goes through the air as Shigaraki is falling through a portal, and he tears off Shigaraki's arm. Yes, this isn't on purpose or anything, but because he was trying to just grab him, but his arm was just lingering, and he hit his arm and it tore it off entirely. With a +6 attack boost as well, yeah, there was no way that a body part wasn't going to get obliterated if Izuku wasn't careful. Kurogiri gets out of there with Shigaraki, at least just barely, but with an arm down, Shigaraki is in panic. All he can think about is what All For One is going to do, and how he just lost part of his quirk, if you put it into perspective, 50% of his power. Now this is a dilemma they did not expect, not one bit. Izuku would be praised by many people there, even All Might himself, and All Might would tell him that they need to continue training more and more and more, and they need to get him even stronger, because it's obvious that he's on track to being one of the youngest heroes ever, and he's on track to leveling up entirely. Aizawa would say that the kid needs to learn a bit of restraint, but other than that, the kid is absolutely, well, mind-blowing. Hates to admit it, but it's the truth, in which everyone kind of is happy that everything worked out for the best, but they're all kind of scarred by this. I mean, this is pretty sketchy, pretty scary, and frankly, who wouldn't be scared about this? With that all done though, the USJ comes to an end and everybody is just happy and sighs with relief. After the USJ though, there is a bit of a brief downtime period. The USJ would be over, everyone would be safe, but that downtime period would lead to the one and only UA Sports Festival. The UA Sports Festival is something for everyone to enjoy, to get their minds off this whole, USJ villain attack, and on top of that, make it so that the other kids that, didn't get absolutely attacked and swarmed by villains, they feel like they're kind of supported still, because a lot of attention is currently on Class 1A. With the USJ, or with the UA Sports Festival quickly approaching, Izuku is told that he is the #1 student and will be doing a bit of a speech, you could say. Izuku, throughout the last 3 days or so, has been training and is actually excited to try out some new things. All Might has even brought up the fact that he really should try out basically using a new Pokemon, in which this would surprise Izuku, but Izuku is kind of up for it. And All Might does tell him that at the end of the day, he's already far stronger than everyone else here, so there's no point of him not trying something new, and frankly, he'll always have all of the people that want him to join their agency. They're all going to be there. There's no changing that. Izuku thinks it's a good idea, and he begins to work with a brand new Pokemon, even though this isn't the easiest thing to work with. I mean, at the end of the day, the Pokemon is based off of his traits, and it seems like he's kind of in the realm of a fighting type, maybe / normal type, but he also can mix in other types depending on what he wants. So Izuku was like, you know what, let's try something out, and he decides that he's going to utilize the form of a Combuskin. Yeah, a Combuskin. And this is the case because he went through the Torchic phase in the last 3 days, and he evolved it relatively quickly, and he's at the end stages of the Combuskin stage, but at the same time, he's still trying to get used to it. Using fire and using fighting and fire at the same time is a lot different than steel and fighting. Steel and fighting in a way go hand in hand, but fire is such a potent thing that even Izuku is struggling with this, especially when he's not technically in the final stages of evolution and he can't utilize one for all. So that firepower could be even more insane. Eventually Izuku would arrive at the UA Sports Festival and he would begin his speech, talking to everyone, saying that he's going to absolutely do his best and everyone else will as well, and that this is going to be entertainment, that everyone is going to extremely enjoy what's going to happen, and everyone's going to love what they're going to put on. And that would definitely be the case. Izuku would watch as everyone cheers him on, and as Midnight would spin the wheel, and they would find out exactly what is to come. Because the very first event is an obstacle course race. And that obstacle course race will be against every single person or every single first year in UA. But that is for the next part of What If Deku Had a Pokemon Quirk. And if you enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And I hope all of y'all have an amazing day. Later.